And welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Njoki Shege. Now, President William Ruto is on a charm offensive with church leaders. On Wednesday, he hosted evangelical, Pentecostal and charismatic church leaders and the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Churches at State House, Nairobi. Now, the president engaging the clergy in what appears to be an attempt to build bridges with the church, which has in the past few weeks castigated his government for advancing a culture of lies and unfulfilled promises. As the very own Emmanuel Toll reports, it has been a busy week of reaching out to the head of state, who also visited the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta at his Ishaweri home on Monday as he pushes towards uniting the country. Take a listen.
After a turbulent few weeks with the church, which has called him out for mismanaging the country 2 years into his administration, Wednesday, President William Ruto hosted leaders from the evangelical, Pentecostal and charismatic churches, and later on the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Churches of Kenya at State House, Nairobi. The clergy in a joint statement asking President William Ruto to focus on the recruitment of Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission commissioners, saying, quote, "We believe the executive can unlock the bottlenecks hindering the process and can avert the present constitutional crisis." The leaders also asking the president to streamline the affordable healthcare program. The clergy also raised concerns over the government's level of preparedness in the transition of learners to grade 9 next year, citing insufficient infrastructure and delayed capitation in the past. They also poked holes into President Ruto's fight against corruption, his handling of the economy, among others. The leaders asking the president to establish a national restoration convention co-chaired by eminent Kenyans, including faith leaders, to deliberate on the challenges and agree on ways of building a prosperous, united and just Kenya for all. On his part, the head of state promised further collaboration with the church, posting on his X platform saying he is committed to advancing the cooperation between the church and his government.
We cannot watch ourselves going down.
The church has been on the president's case for a while now, accusing him of unkept promises and entrenching a culture of lies.
Mambo ya afya wanaipinga. Sasa mimi nauliza, hii pepo chafu, nafikiri hata imefika wanapinga hata matoleo kanisani. Jameni.
This culture of lies, unkept promises and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with.
We advise, as the clergy, the president, if possible, to avoid making more promises at this time and instead focus in prioritizing flagship projects.
The meeting comes 2 days after President Ruto reached out to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, promising to unite the country by reaching out to all leaders. Emmanuel Toll, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, Toll, thanks so much for that. Let's switch gears here a little bit. And police officer Isaiah Muragiri found himself in a difficult situation as he tried to explain in court whether he was involved in the death of Rex Masai, a Gen Z protester whose murder by an unknown police officer was captured on video and went viral during the protests in June. Now, Muragiri maintained that he was not near the scene and could not recall what clothes he was wearing that day, despite the court being informed that data from his registered phone indicated that he was in close proximity to the incident that day. Let's get more from our very own Willie Lusige.
Rex Masai was one of the protesters who made headlines after this CCTV video showed him getting shot by a plainclothes police officer during the Gen Z protests against the government in June. His death sparked a public outcry after the Office of the Public Prosecution stated that the video did not identify the police officer, even though protesters claimed that the officer was Isaiah Muragiri, who was stationed at the Central Police Station.
My exact deployment was at the entrance of the KICC.
Did you get to launch any tear gas canister?
That particular day, I did it.
This led to his appearance in the Milimani court on Wednesday for the first public hearing of the investigation into who shot Rex Masai.
What would your comment be to the allegations that you may have been the one who fired the fatal shot?
I don't know the reason why I was mentioned, and I was not armed with a gun that can fire to kill someone.
However, Muragiri was put on the spot when asked to explain what clothes he was wearing and whether he was in the city center at the time Rex was shot at 7 p.m.
I want to call the color of the t-shirt, but I can remember I was wearing a t-shirt.
Were you in town at past 6 p.m.?
No.
The prosecutors, led by an LSK lawyer and IPOA, questioned why data from his phone number showed he was near the incident area and left at 10 p.m., despite his insistence that he had not used the number since 2023.
Where did you keep your line when you stopped using it?
I just disposed it off. I don't know where I kept it in the house, because I just removed it from my phone.
The court was also informed that the data from the same phone number showed he was near City Mortuary the day after Rex's death.
Any time on the 21st itself, near City Mortuary?
No.
Chief Magistrate Honorable G. Onsarigo adjourned the session until the 5th of February.
Also, the executive officer to avail the ICT equipment for purposes of playing a video clip on the said date. Further hearing on 5th of February next year.
As the inquest continues, the family of the late Rex Masai, who was killed during the climax of the anti-government protest by the Gen Z, is still hopeful that finally justice will be served and those behind his death will be brought to book. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi.
All right, Willie, thanks so much for that. Switching gears here, and former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has suffered a blow after the High Court set aside his acquittal in a 20 million shilling graft case. Justice Nixon Sifuna quashed Sonko's acquittal, saying the trial magistrate erred in his ruling by relying on an outdated charge sheet. Let's get more from our very own Ben Kirui.
2 years after his acquittal, former Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko is set to return to the corridors of justice as he faces a retrial in the Kenya shillings 20 million graft case. High Court Judge Nixon Sifuna, in a ruling delivered on Wednesday, directed that the matter be retried before a different magistrate, citing errors in the December 2022 judgment by Magistrate Douglas Ogoti. The retrial comes after the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions appealed Sonko's acquittal, arguing that the trial magistrate relied on an outdated charge sheet filed on January 27, 2020, instead of the amended version submitted 8 months later on September 7, 2020. Initially, Sonko had faced 8 charges, including conspiracy to commit corruption, conflict of interest, money laundering, and acquiring proceeds of crime. The amended charge sheet introduced 5 additional charges, including abuse of office, bringing the total to 13 counts. The DPP contended that Magistrate Ogoti erred in law by dismissing the charges as defective despite admitting the amended charge sheet. Judge Sifuna directed Sonko and his co-accused businessman Anthony Ombok to appear before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court on Monday, December 16th for directions. The new magistrate has been instructed to determine within 30 days whether the two have a case to answer based on the evidence presented. Sonko, through his lawyer John Haminwa, expressed his intention to appeal the High Court's decision. He argued that the DPP's appeal was inconclusive and should not have been allowed to proceed in the first place. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, Ben, thanks so much for that. Now, President William Ruto on Wednesday signed 7 bills into law in a move the government says will increase disposable income while broadening the tax base. Now, it will, however, see the cost of hailing a cab or ordering food online increase. The bills signed into law also include the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Amendment Bill 2024, which will require that the next chairperson of the commission to be a lawyer qualified to hold the office of a High Court judge. We get more from our very own Olive Burrows.
Excellencies, these are the other copies of the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill.
In a mixed bag for the Kenyan taxpayer, President William Ruto on Wednesday signed 7 government-sponsored bills into law. In a move he said would accelerate the realization of their bottom-up economic transformation agenda. They are the Kenya Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, the Kenya Roads Amendment Bill, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Amendment Bill, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, the Business Laws Amendment Bill, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill, and the Tax Laws Amendment Bill.
Sir, the 5th bill is Kenya Roads' position of the Kenya Roads Board by reducing its membership.
The Tax Laws Amendment Bill, now Act, introduces different measures, including allowing the affordable housing levy to be deducted from the tax liability that is payable. This, the government says, would address the issue of double taxation. The changes to the law are also intended to incentivize pension contributions by increasing the amount deductible for contributions from 20,000 shillings a month to 30,000 shillings per month. Payment of pensions benefits from registered funds to individuals will now be tax-free upon reaching retirement age. Previously, only payments after 65 years of age were tax-exempt. To address the challenges faced by small businesses and small-scale farmers with the electronic tax invoice management system, better known as ETIMS, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill provides for reverse ticketing, where the purchaser will be the one to issue a tax invoice for the purpose of ascertaining tax liability. This will apply to businesses whose turnover does not exceed 5 million shillings a year. Where excise tax on alcoholic beverages are concerned, there are upsides and downsides. The changes empower the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary to exempt spirits made from agricultural products in Kenya from excise duty, and alters the due date for payment of excise duty on alcoholic beverages from 24 hours to monthly, payable on the 5th day of the month following the transaction. This, the government says, should address cash flow challenges. And excise duty on certain alcoholic beverages will now be based on the strength of alcohol content in the product rather than on quantity. This, the government says, will increase excise on spirits, reduce excise on beer, and marginally increase the excise on wines. Users of ride-hailing apps and food delivery apps will, however, be forced to dig deeper into their pockets. The government has now introduced a significant economic presence tax at an effective rate of 6% for non-resident businesses. Additionally, the Act introduces the minimum top-up tax at a rate of 15%. This will require businesses to calculate the amount of tax paid at the end of the year and account for the difference should it be lower than 15%.
At the same time, intern doctors have, for a second week running, staged a demonstration outside Afia House to protest delayed payment. The intern medics, who marched from their internship center at Kenyatta National Hospital to the Ministry of Health, accused the government of skewed priorities and plunging the healthcare department into a crisis. Let's get more from our very own Mary Mwok.
Chanting what has become an all-too-familiar tune in the labor movement in the country, intern doctors for the second time in as many weeks held protest outside Afia House. The interns are protesting salary delays by the government and what they term as back-breaking labor with no compensation by the government. Even as they staged a sit-in at Afia House, the health CS who appeared undisturbed by the doctors' pleas left in this motorcade, drawing the ire of these junior medics.
When you go to any level 4, 5 and 6 hospitals, we are the first people whom you will meet there. We heard that the CS was around, but immediately we arrived, she decided to assume us and leave. What does that show? That these people are not willing or ready to listen to the junior doctors.
Barely recovered from the prolonged strike in April this year, the health sector has yet again been plunged into turmoil with the withdrawal of services by the intern doctors, who are demanding an immediate payment of their 4-month salary arrears before they can return to work. Dressed in white lab coats, the young medical professionals carried placards and a coffin symbolizing their colleagues who've died from suicide after working for months with no pay.
Failure to find a long-lasting solution to this problem will result to mental health issues to intern doctors who are bona fide citizens of this country.
I have not had my pay for the past 4 months.
Yes.
Internship itself is so draining, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. It is so bad that we've lost some of us, and the government still cannot see. People are suicidal. I myself, if you ask me, has the thought ever crossed my mind? Multiple times.
And they've already been out of work since last month. They'll be out of work until they are paid in full. Secondly, there are agreements on the basic salary arrears for the doctors. We have waited from July, August, September, now we are in November and December.
Doctors in Kiambu County and in Central Region have also vowed to down their tools and join their colleagues countrywide on the 21st of this month if the emerging issues they raised will not have been addressed by then.
Doctors are demotivated. Therefore, in as much as hospitals are still there, gates are open, people are working under duress, we will not be able to offer the services as expected, and when nationwide everybody puts the tools down.
The doctors of Kiambu are frustrated, they're more disillusioned, because the frustrations and the suffering that they're going through is too much. Next week, if the issues that are bedeviling in Kiambu County are not implemented, even if you go on a national strike, those things will have to be resolved.
Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
All right, Barry, thanks so much for that. Now, the government is considering setting up a 32-kilometer dike along the River Nyando and part of the Lake Victoria shoreline as a stopgap measure to the perennial floods that hit the Kano Plains in Kisumu. Now, speaking while distributing food to victims of flooding, Cabinet Secretary for EAC, Beatrice R. School, revealed that the intervention will alleviate the risk of food insecurity posed by the floods, which destroys thousands of acres of crops every year. And as our Laura Otieno reports, the exercise was also dotted with political undertones as leaders defended the broad-based government, saying it will ensure uniform distribution of development projects across the country.
While hundreds of families in Nyando deal with the impact of the loss of livelihoods following floods that hit the area in the last 2 weeks, CS in the Ministry of East African Community and ASAL, Beatrice School, led a food distribution exercise at Ombaka village, promising to work with other line ministries to put an end to the floods, which wreak havoc during long rain seasons in different parts of the country.
Some areas need gabions. Some areas need serious water harvest, as in dams, big ponds. And you know, it's not a sole ministry affair. It's a conglomerate of ministries and partners equally. County governments. We are all supposed to sit and put our brains together and see how best to cushion the people from the suffering.
In the interim, we can do the dikes, but in the long term, we do Korusoin Dam, which will not just control the floods, but will also be used for agriculture and water supplies to various communities actually across Kisumu County. Then that will go a long way in helping our people.
The leaders lashed out at critics of the broad-based government as the ODM stalwarts, once sworn enemies of the president, showed they had turned into the Kenya Kwanza government's ardent defenders.
Kwani tumewekewa baji ya opposition? Tumepigwa muhuri. So wakati mwingine hiyo jina kama kuna mtu anataka kuchukua si achukue tu. hata yeye ajaribu. Una oppose kama kuna kitu ya kuoppose. Kama hakuna kitu ya kuoppose, then unawachana nayo.
Yeye anaenda Afrika kuongoza hii nchi yote 52 na ametuacha Ruto atembee na sisi. Baba hezi achia sisi tu kwa misitu. Ametuacha ndani ya serikali. Na tutakaa hapo mpaka 2047.
In Nyando, 6 schools have been marooned and hundreds of families left with no livelihoods after farmlands were submerged by the backflow from Lake Victoria. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
All right, Laura, thanks so much for that. Now, the Kenya Bureau of Standards has allayed concerns that rice available in the Kenyan market is not fit for consumption. Now, in a statement, KEBS has asked Kenyans to ignore claims of contaminated rice in the market, stating that they seized 452 contaminated sacks of rice imported by Anytime Limited. Now, the statement reads in part, the 452 bags of rice found at Anytime Limited was seized by KEBS in the interest of consumer safety and subjected to laboratory analysis. It was discovered the rice was not fit for consumption due to high aflatoxin levels. All the 2,078,500 kilograms of Pakistani long-grain rice reimported by MS Gama Foods Traders Limited between the 30th of September and the 12th of November 2024 have been tested and found fit for human consumption. KEBS goes on to say, we urge traders to adhere to recommended product storage instructions to avoid spoilage and possible contamination of the products within their stores. All right, we're going to take our first break here on Jeff Koinange Live and remind you, my guest today, it's his very first interview since he was appointed the Principal Secretary for Internal Affairs and National Administration. We're talking about Dr. Raymond Omolo. He's the man who controls the heartbeat of the government. He's on the show, he's in the house, and he's going to talk.
Your skin naturally connects with nature and recognizes the goodness of native ingredients, which is why AfriSense Toning Bathing Bar is packed with African ingredients. AfriSense, discover the secrets of African beauty for your skin.
It is exactly 31 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. On the bench tonight, the man who sits at the heartbeat of the government. That's right, the Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo. By the way, it's his very first interview since he was appointed more than 2 years ago. Oh, did I mention? He's in charge of all the preparations for Jamhuri Day tomorrow. So this man probably hasn't slept for the last 48 hours. But we're going to ask him some questions. And here we go. PS, Karibu Sana, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
So yesterday during the femicide march in town, right? It was disrupted by police and tear gas and all that. And there's a message from the U.S. Embassy on X or Twitter. It says, it is regrettable and concerning to see police action against Kenyans exercising their constitutional rights to assemble and protest peacefully. Now, it goes on to say, on International Human Rights Day and every day, the United States supports efforts to end a femicide, KE, and protect human rights of all people. So the question is, why such the high-handedness, Mana PS?
Jeff, I think yesterday's events were pretty much unfortunate, to say the least. And one happening on such an important day, it's definitely just shows part of the challenge that we have around policing. And looking at the people who are out there demonstrating. Of course, we've had a series of concerns across the country over the last few days on issues around femicide.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a question where you're saying things just didn't go right. It's not something that we would want to say that is acceptable. We've had conversations with the Inspector General of Police, and it's regrettable. It is something that should not have happened in the first place. When you think about it, at times you could look at it from the point where you're a parent, you're trying to punish a child, but in the process, out of that enthusiasm, you actually go overboard, and then it becomes something that becomes uncontrollable. It is something that we highly regret that happened.
Speaking of going overboard, those who have gone overboard, will they be held accountable?
Jeff, we have the processes, internal processes within the structure of the police. And as you know, there is the entire structure which is under the command of the Inspector General of Police. And what we expect is that anyone found culpable definitely has to be taken through the legal process and the established protocols.
Yeah. And you've seen since June, the Gen Z process in June, there's a wave of police brutality. And you saw that story we did earlier on today. There's a policeman who was charged in court with the killing of Rex Masai and others. Is that concerning?
Jeff, I think there's a way we could look at it. There is the bit about the cases that like what you've mentioned. And we must admit as a country that over the years there's been a lot of improvement in terms of policing. The way the police are operating today is definitely better than it was 10 years ago. Speaking to the improvements that we've had in terms of an accountability, we have the Independent Police Oversight Authority, which has really done quite a good job. Interestingly, when you look at the statistics, we have about 110,000 police officers to look after the 50+ million of us. Over the last 1 year, IPOA has taken about 225 cases to court, with half of that being dismissed. Now, if you look at what then they've ended up prosecuting positively, if you comparatively look at it against the numbers, you're looking at less than 0.02% of the cases. Just to try and maybe put things into context, yes, we have these isolated cases, and also we take comfort as a country that they're being followed up and action is being taken. On the other side, there's a huge amount of good things that our police officers are doing in helping to keep us safe, and it is important that we sustain those gains over time.
Yeah. If we switch gears and go on to the National Government Administration Office, also known as NGAO, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts? I mean, have there been success stories that you can point out to? Because, okay, if we talk about fertilizer, there's been controversy. And you know that, we know that, everybody knows that.
Jeff, yes, there've been controversy. But it's always also important to try and look at the bigger picture. For the first time in a very long time as a country, we are not importing maize. We are not importing sugar. We are not importing a number of basic food supplies. And this is largely attributable to the interventions that the government has made with the fertilizer subsidy programs. And the National Government Administration officers have been at the heart of the implementation of this program. One, starting with the registration of farmers. For the first time in a record 2 weeks, we were able, using this NGAO network, to register more than 5 million farmers across the country, knowing even the amount of the acreage of land that each farmer has, the kind of crops that they plant. So when you look at how useful these cadre of officers are, you don't actually need to actually look further because the results are there for us to see. But beyond what has happened within the agriculture sector, there is also a lot of work that has been done in the education space in terms of looking at the transition of children from primary to high school, now junior secondary school. And we are almost at 100% transition rate. This is largely courtesy of the work that the National Government Administration officers have been able to do over time, working very closely with the Ministry of Education. There's a coordination of exam uptake and distribution across the country. They're always at the heart of it. The distribution centers are domiciled and under the supervision of the Deputy County Commissioners, working together with the sub-county education directors of education, working closely with the teachers. And even if you look at the amount or the number of cases that eventually end up as reported as cases of malpractice, they are significantly reduced.
Is it more success than failures?
There is more success in terms of when you look at the interventions that these cadre of officers have been able to undertake over the last 10 or so years with the new constitutional dispensation. Yeah. Beyond, of course, education, there is general issues around security in terms of coordination of the security infrastructure. So at the regional levels, you have the regional security intelligence committees that are chaired by the regional commissioners. You go to the counties, you have the county security intelligence committees. When you go to the lower levels at the locations and the sub-locations and the villages, then you have what we call the peace committees. And these officers have been able to coordinate all the players, both within and outside government, just to be able to help in coordinating matters to do with security, but also implementation of various government programs. Yeah. At the same time, they also act as that face that links what is happening on the ground in terms of feedback mechanism, whether certain government programs are effective or not. Jeff, even when you think about some of the cases that we are grappling with, whether it's femicide or criminal activities, the first person who would easily get to know what is happening is the local chief, is the assistant chief, is the village elder. So even before things go out of hand, we have an opportunity to address it. What we need to do going forward, as a State Department and Ministry, we are working on a policy around policing, which would broadly help us shape how we intervene so that we significantly address the very numerous cases that we see from time to time.
Yeah. Speaking of femicide, I'm going to get back to that real quick. There was a case of a gentleman, his name was Collins Jumaisi Halusha. He reportedly, allegedly, killed 42 women. He confessed, and he was arrested. And then days later, he literally walked out of jail. What's the latest on that?
Jeff, you know, just the way you've described it. So number one is that for one person to consistently kill one person after another until you get to 42, apart from just it being a criminal act, you probably need to think about it also. Are we also dealing with a mental issue? You're probably not dealing with someone who is normal in the sense of a human being. There was, of course, conviction, someone taken to jail, and I would not want, of course, to speak to the other actors within the whole process of the justice system. But for me, it speaks to just the challenge we have as a society. How is it possible that someone would just kill 42 people over time? If one is not too much, then you're talking about 10, 20, 30, 40. And where is everybody? Where is the family? Where is the community? Where is the society? And I think it speaks to a much bigger problem, which is societal, that we really need to address ourselves to. Yeah. And I've spoken about the mental health issues. If you look at...
Could I ask, where's the government in all this?
Correct. The government is actually you and me, in the context that without you, there's no government. So there's definitely a responsibility on the part of the executive, that is the police, that is people like myself who are running the State Department. But then there is also the role of people like yourself, Jeff, who are in the media, who have also a responsibility to help us work together to address and also to highlight some of these issues.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and go to the former CJ David Maraga's task force report on police reforms. Where are we on that? I mean, usually task force reports are written, they're presented in a fantastic ceremony, and then they're put on a shelf and they gather dust.
So, Jeff, first of all, one thing you have to give to this administration is the ability to follow up on its commitments. And one of the first assignments that President Ruto did was, after committing to address the challenges that were there within the policing sector, was to set up the Maraga Task Force that took a lot of time to look into the issues around the welfare and just operations within the different services. And it was not just the police. They looked at the National Youth Service as well as the Kenya Prison Service. And after a good job that the team did, led by Maraga, they presented the report that had a raft of recommendations, almost 600 of them, cutting across the three services. Within the National Police Service, there were 271 recommendations. Of those recommendations, broadly classified, there are those that are administrative in nature. Then there are those that are legal, that requires that we make certain changes to the existing laws. And then there are those that require infusion of resources. And as we speak today, the ones that are administrative in nature are already underway. The ones that speaks to issues around promotions, the ones that speak to issues around just transfers of officers. Now, there are also the ones that are financial in nature. And again, some of those we're already implementing, like the issues around the salaries and remuneration for the police officers. We have phased it to be done over a 3-year period, with the first year implementing 20%, because the recommendation was that we improve the salaries by between 40% for the lower cadre officers to up to about 3-4% for the officers in the higher ranks. And as we speak today, this current financial year, we're implementing the first phase of that, which has seen officers have an increment of up to 20%. And in the next financial year, we will do 10%, and the third or the last financial year, we do the last 10%.
What does that translate into in Kenya shillings, sort of, if it's 20%?
So in absolute terms, the least or the entry-level officer was coming in at 20,000 or thereabout. With a 20% increment, you're looking at quantitatively a 4,000 increase in their basic pay. And then, of course, you graduate it based on the levels that the officers are in. Yeah.
PS, I want to take a break, come back. We have some business supposed to do, but we're going to come back and talk about more about these police reforms.
Yeah.
Because we want to talk about underfunding.
Yeah.
We want to talk about corruption. We want to talk about abductions and extrajudicial killings. And of course, you know, this work you've been doing the last few weeks, tomorrow's celebrations, you've been busy doing with Jamhuri Day celebrations. We're going to talk about all of that. And by the way, for your first interview, you're doing okay.
Thank you.
You're doing all right.
Good.
Oh, let's not forget Nakada and alcoholism and what you guys are doing to combat that, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Central Province. My people are in trouble.
I think we're making good progress.
And then there's bars in neighborhoods that are just destroying all the rules, ignoring all the rules. We need to talk about that. We've got the Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo. His very first interview since he was appointed more than 2 years ago. By the way, why didn't you do an interview before? Why is this the first?
You didn't call me.
Good answer. I like that. Good answer. What are your concerns? What are your comments? What are your questions? At Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLIVE. JKLIVE takes a break. We'll be back. In the meantime, coming up. Coming up, Ketraco moves to complete restoration of transmission lines damaged during the floods.
As a parent, you want your little one to experience all that life offers. To touch the world with an open heart and curious mind. But the world, for all its beauty, holds on.
Secretary for Internal Affairs and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo, Internal Security and National Administration, very shortly. In the meantime, more news, business, sports, and we go on. Now, the Inspector General of the National Police Service, Douglas Kanja, led a joint security operation in Marsabit County to assess the security situation within Hilo Gold Mine, where 6 people died at the illegal gold mine. Now, Kanja and the county security team were on a fact-finding mission to analyze how and why the victims at the mining place, at the gold mine, and that had been declared closed and was under police security. Now, the IG is seeking answers on who allowed mining in the face of the ban by the government. Apart from the 6 reported deaths, 10 illegal miners sustained serious injuries and were rushed to Moyale Hospital following the Monday night tragedy. Police say the victims had intruded into the illegal gold mine, which had been shut down by the government for security reasons. It is reported that illegal mining has been going on at the Hilo gold mine despite the closure. All right, back home again, and residents of Salama, Emali, Makindu, and Kibwezi in Makueni County were treated to gifts as the Safaricom Sambaza Furaha caravan traversed the towns. Safaricom rewarded its customers as it celebrates 24 years in service. Residents were also sensitized on the need to stay vigilant when it comes to fraudsters, especially during this festive season. Take a listen.
In their numbers, the young and the old. Residents of Salama turned up as the Safaricom Sambaza Furaha caravan made its way to the Salama market. Residents were sensitized on the services offered by the telecommunications giant, including Lipa Mdogo Mdogo, data offers, and for traders, the Pochi la Biashara option.
It's about continuous engagement, doing customer advocacy. It's about continuing to complement our services, bringing our services close to each other, and also helping build and transform lives is the main thing. So it's not just a one-off. We will continue having these sessions and programs throughout the whole of next year.
Mimi nadili na mambo ya matunda na ninafurahia sana Pochi la Biashara juu inanisaidia. Pesa ikienda wrong number huwa haipotei na rejeshewa kama kawaida, inakuwa kama haki yangu.
The caravan later traversed Emali, Makindu and Kibwezi. Boniface Maingi, a resident of Emali, was among those who received gifts from the Safaricom Sambaza Furaha team.
Ninashukuru sana Safaricom kwa kupatia watu sikukuu ya kuku na mbuzi. Kwa hivyo ninashukuru sana Safaricom na radio ya Mzee FM na Citizen kwa kupatia watu sikukuu.
Nashukuru sana leo Safaricom imekuja, nimeshinda kuku, leso, na nashukuru sana kwa Safaricom, muendelee hivyo hivyo.
Musi FM and Radio Citizen presenters took time to educate residents on data privacy and Safaricom's data offers.
Leo ni siku ya 3 ya Safaricom Sambaza Furaha Caravan Ukambani Edition. Tulianzia juzi Kitui, jana tukaenda Machakos na leo tuko Makueni, na mashabiki wetu pamoja na makastoma wa Safaricom wamejitokeza kwa wingi, wamejishindia zawadi nyingi.
Tunaelezea wasikilizaji wengine na Wakenya wengine watungoje, tunakuja na ujumbe mzito kutoka kwa kampuni ya Safaricom kwamba msimu ni wa Krismasi. Tafadhali tuwe waangalifu. Matapeli wako wengi sana. Msimu huu ndio watu pia wanatafuta. Kwa hivyo nao pia uwe chonjo, uwe makini, usiibiwe kwa haraka. Uwe chonjo, uwe makini, upate kuchukua zile offers za Safaricom kama vile tunukiwa, uenjoy talk time, uenjoy data ya bei rahisi.
Exit Ukambani, enter the coastal region. The Safaricom Sambaza Furaha Caravan is on the final leg of the 5-week-long campaign. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV, Makindu, Makueni County.
All right, Marianne, thanks so much for that. And at the same time, Lucy Mureithi from Nairobi is the grand winner of the Jipange na Viusasa promotion, taking home a whopping 3 million shillings. Now, jubilant Lucy visited the Viusasa studios to receive her grand prize, celebrating her big win after participating in the promotion. Now, on the final day, Monica Mburu from Omuranga was also awarded 1 million shillings from buying and watching videos on Viusasa. Take a look at the highlights.
Jipange na Viusasa.
After an exciting 4 months, the Jipange na Viusasa promotion has officially come to an end, leaving smiles on the faces of hundreds of Kenyans who won millions of shillings across the country.
Jina lake ni Lucy Mureithi, our winner of 3 million shillings on Jipange. Lucy, karibu sana. Hello. She is joining me in the
The latest and final millionaire being Lucy Mureithi from Nairobi, who took home 3 million shillings.
Nilikuwa hata nimekufa moyo, nikasema sitacheza. Sasa mimi hadi nilishangaa nikipigiwa simu, mimi hadi sikuwa naamini.
Monica Mburu from Muranga will also be smiling all the way to the bank with 1 million shillings for the weekly prize for buying and watching videos on Viusasa. The winners of the final award have been enrolled to financial literacy on how to manage their millions.
Ni lazima ujue pesa ikai mali inatakikana ama mali inahitajika. Inakaa mali inaheshimiwa. So mdumishe hiyo heshima ya nini? Ya pesa.
This promotion was designed to enhance the customer experience on Viusasa, and it certainly delivered. Throughout the promotion, winners took home 50,000 shillings daily and 1 million shillings weekly. Ode Francis, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Jipange na Viusasa imerudi kwa mbwembwe na vishindo. Jipange leo kwa nafasi ya kujishindia mamilioni ya pesa.
This is me at Stanbic Private Banking. What does it feel like? It's investing skillfully. It's planning wisely. It's living joyfully. It's banking easily. Visit www.stanbic.co.ke. Stanbic Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Congratulations to all the winners. And from that, we get on to business news. And the construction of 4 electricity towers along the Sabaki River, part of an 11-tower project, is now 80% complete. The towers were swept away by floods earlier this year after River Sabaki changed course, disrupting power supply along the Ravai-Garsen-Alamu line. The 600 million shilling project being undertaken by the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, includes 30-meter deep drilled foundations and reinforced concrete columns designed to withstand severe flooding. As Francis Mtalaki reports, NGPS Francis Washira, who toured the site, says the project will be complete by February 2025.
From the skies, the scale of damage caused by floods and the construction of emergency towers along the original line is ongoing. After 4 electricity transmission towers were washed away by floods, when River Sabaki changed its course by up to 3 kilometers, the 4 towers are designed to withstand the river flow, drilling 30 meters deep and concrete columns to the top.
It's one of a kind, the first kind of towers to be done in Kenya. Those are towers that are piling towers, which involve drilling to almost 30 meters and having concrete columns all the way to the top. That assures us that even in the worst case scenario, we have done design for the worst case scenario of flooding, that those towers will withstand any kind of flooding.
We are at 80%. The reason why I'm saying 80% is because the heaviest work is dealing with the foundation. Foundation, drilling the 30 meters, that's the heaviest work. Tower erection will take us approximately a month and 3 weeks for stringing the conductors and testing. So by end of February latest, we should be out of this site.
The towers are further secured by gabions to enhance stability.
We have learned from when we saw our towers fall. So it's a heavy project using a lot of machinery, using a lot of careful engineering works. I was here about 3 months ago and we were at tower number 7 and 6. That's when he was doing tower number 7 and 6. Right now we only have one more tower to go. So it's a good project. It's a project that will ensure we have enough power supply and security of supply to Garsen all the way to Lamu.
At the same time, the government has warned against vandalism of energy infrastructure, saying this has led to increased power outages and disruptions along the power line.
You are actually endangering the energy security of Kenya because those towers, the way we have seen them, we have to restore them because if there is heavy wind that can come, it can easily collapse 2 or 3 or 4 towers and therefore affect Kenyans on this other side with energy security.
The 600 million project is expected to be complete in the next 3 months. Francis Ntulaki, Citizen TV, Sabaki, Kilifi County.
At the same time, the East African Community Secretary General's Forum has concluded with a call for swift action towards creating a borderless, fully integrated region. Now, over 2 days, stakeholders from civil society, the private sector and governments convened to tackle issues, key among them being the removal of trade barriers through integrated payment systems and accelerated infrastructural development. Leaders at the convention have also agitated for the diversification of funding sources to support the bloc's integration agenda, underscoring the importance of sustainable financing to drive projects and address regional challenges effectively.
Despite some of the challenges. We talked yesterday about the infrastructure, the northern corridor, the southern corridor, connecting our close borders to the ports, the online tracking of movement of trucks, the growth in trade numbers, the increase in movement of persons, the recognition of professionals, the dealing together of challenging health situations. We have continued to enjoy growth and success over the last 25 years, and we choose to focus on that success.
We have come together to explore the multifaceted challenges facing our region, and more importantly, to identify the vast opportunities that lie ahead.
Right on to our weekly feature, Smart Farm. And a unique crop from the maize family is gaining popularity among small-scale farmers in Kirinyaga County. Known as baby corn, the crop is proving to be a viable alternative to farmers who have long struggled with challenges such as water scarcity and inadequate farming inputs. Now, with government support, insights from agricultural experts, and increasing market demand, baby corn farming promises both economic and ecological benefits. Our very own Dennis Otieno brings us more on this week's Smart Farm.
In the fertile plains of Kithireti area in Kirinyaga, a quiet revolution is taking root. Traditionally, this county is celebrated for its expansive rice fields, tea, coffee, bananas, and other crops. Yet, a growing number of farmers are venturing into the cultivation of a less familiar crop, baby corn.
This is baby corn as you see it, Dennis. It's one of the maize classes. It's harvested as a baby corn like the one I'm holding right now.
Sarah Bibo is one of the pioneering farmers cultivating baby corn commercially as the crop steadily gains traction in the region.
I started up with around 1 acre. That is back in year 2010. Then slowly I came growing as demand increased in the company. So I was excited when I saw there was opening of the market. So I decided to expand my plot, my shamba. Right now it's around, I'm doing it at around 6, 7, 8 acres.
For decades, Kenyan farmers have battled unpredictable weather, fluctuating global commodity prices, and declining returns from traditional crops. To combat these challenges, stakeholders in the agricultural sector have promoted alternative crops like baby corn as viable options.
There are different varieties of baby corn. We have Pan 14, which was one of the varieties we were planting before. And there's now new hybrids that are coming up.
Baby corn is generally a young, tender maize harvested before maturity. It offers several advantages, which include quick harvest cycles of less than 60 days, high market demand, and low input requirements.
Baby corn, una harvest a speck like this one I'm holding, and once you harvest it, after 2 days another one regenerates. So you can have as many harvests as you meant. It depends with the way you ulikuwa ume-maintain block yako. Mimea ilishiba vizuri, ulipe enough chakula. Yes, it will determine the harvesting period. From 1 acre of land, I can get 4 to 5 tons of baby corn.
With shorter harvest cycles, farmers now enjoy a more stable year-round income. Baby corn's low resource demands also align with Kenya's push for sustainable agriculture amid climate change challenges. A kilo of baby corn fetches over 200 shillings when sold to large retailers locally, while farmers exporting the crop like Bibo earn even higher prices.
Baby corn basically is used as vegetable salad, both export and local market. If you go to our local supermarkets, you will find baby corn, and we are doing the bigger part of it as export. And we can also do the remaining stalks that you see after harvesting. We sell it out as fodder for the animals. Basically, we are looking at France, we are looking at Europe, especially United Kingdom.
Hii baby corn ni mzuri kwa sababu bei yake huwa iko juu. Na tena ni nzuri kwa wale watu wanafanya kazi. Kwa sababu wale watu wanafanya kazi, huwa tunachukua watu kama 20 hivi. Wale wanafanya kazi. Na watu wengine wengi wakuja wanaenda nyumbani.
Despite its promise, baby corn farming is not without challenges. Farmers occasionally face pest infestations, inconsistent rainfall, and fluctuating prices. However, irrigation projects and research efforts are helping mitigate these issues.
According to Bibo, baby corn's quick maturation period and growing local demand makes it an attractive option for many small-scale farmers looking to pursue profitable agricultural ventures. Dennis Otieno, Smart Farm.
This is me at Stanbic Private Banking. What does it feel like? It's investing skillfully. It's planning wisely. It's living joyfully. It's banking easily. Visit www.stanbic.co.ke. Stanbic Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
All right, from business to sports. And we begin with football. And Harambee Stars head coach Engin Firat has thrown in the towel and quit his position barely a week after sweeping changes at the Football Kenya Federation. That resignation was confirmed by the Football Kenya Federation's new president, Hussein Mohammed, who stated that the federation received the letter earlier today. Derek Ojiambo has more.
Firat's resignation was confirmed by the new FKF President Hussein Mohamed. According to Mohamed, Firat officially informed the Federation of his decision earlier today.
The Football Kenya Federation FKF is in receipt of the communication from national team coach Angel Firat. The first over notice of termination, his contract entered in November 2021. The matter has since been forwarded to the new FKF executive for review and deliberation.
Firat, who took over as coach in 2021 with an initial 2-month contract, was later given an extension that saw him get an additional 4 years. The coach guided the Harambee Stars in several major tournaments, including the qualifiers for the AFCON and the FIFA World Cup. However, his tenure was marked with challenges as the team failed to qualify for the 2023 and 2025 editions of the African Cup of Nations.
Our past. Why it is? What is the problem there? Why everybody is talking about World Cup and winning AFCON or whatever? Why?
The new Harambee Stars coach will guide the team at the CHAN competition as his first assignment in February next year. The tournament will be hosted by Uganda, Tanzania and Kenya. Derek Odhiambo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, and still on football, defending FKF PL champions Gor Mahia were once again haunted by the injury time ghosts as they conceded yet again in added time to draw 1-1 against Shabana FC in Machakos. Tusker FC's fine run came to a screeching halt as they were surprisingly hammered 4-1 by AFC Leopards. Now in Moranga, Police FC's revival continued with a commanding 3-0 win over Bidco United. David Okoth opened the floodgates for Police FC in the 14th minute before Kenneth Muguna's sublime free kick made it 2-0 in the 43rd minute. Man of the match, Muguna, was on target again in the 74th minute as he tapped in from close range. Police climbed to 7th on the log with 17 points, 6 behind leaders KCB.
I congratulate my boys to play 3 games in row. They're playing 1 o'clock with this sun, how hot it is. It wasn't easy, but we managed to push, especially to keep the position. Yeah, that's where we are still have a big room to improve.
All right, from football to volleyball, and Kenya beat Rwanda in straight sets in women's volleyball in the ongoing East Africa Parliamentary Games match played at the Aga Khan Academy in Mombasa. After a shaky start, the Kenya parliamentarians settled well to clinch the first set 25-15. The second set was a nervy affair as Rwanda came back strongly, but the Kenya ladies held their nerve to win 25-21. In the do-or-die third set, Kenya were pushed by the jubilant crowd to win 25-18 for a 3-0 win. The games are being used to unify the East African parliamentarians to create friendship and integration in the East African region.
Teams are good and they believe they can all win. It didn't really show so much here because for us it is about networking, togetherness, being East African. So the rivalry today did not show.
From volleyball to swimming, and Kenya swimming coach Fakri Mansour has called on the government and swimming stakeholders to put up their proper swimming pools that meet international standards if Kenya is to produce world players, or rather world beaters in the sport. Fakri, who is a World Aquatics Level 3 coach, is among 3 coaches training selected junior swimmers at the Kenya Academy of Sports holiday camps in Mombasa. Now, the program is halfway done, with the swimmers having 3 sessions a day. The swimmers are happy that through the Kenya Academy of Sports holiday camps, some swimmers who had no opportunities at the national level are now able to train together with top swimmers to improve their performance. At the camp, the coaches are working on endurance, techniques, and dive turns as well.
Very good experience to bring swimmers from every part of Mombasa to come together to showcase their skills. And the best part of today was the relay that we did. It really showcased all of our abilities and it was very good. The camp is going very well so far and I hope to see the Kenyan government doing more stuff like this.
And I want to commend the ministry that this thing should be going on every year now, because we have discovered that some of the swimmers can do very, very well. if given a chance. And we were able to bring different swimmers from different counties, and they're all swimming as a team, and it's working out very, very well.